This is not just a flood. This is a city breaking under the weight of water. Makhachkala! A place that woke up like any other day, and within hours descended into chaos no one was prepared for. The sky didn't just open, it unleashed something far more violent. Relentless rain hammered the city with a fury that felt almost unnatural, as if nature itself had turned against everything in its path. At first, it was just water pooling on the streets. Nothing unusual, nothing alarming. But then, the water didn't stop. It rose. Faster, heavier, darker. Drainage systems collapsed under the pressure. Rivers overflowed. Streets turned into raging currents. And suddenly, it was too late. Cars lifted like toys. Entire vehicles dragged helplessly through torrents of muddy water, spinning, crashing, disappearing into the chaos as if swallowed whole. People stood frozen, watching, not understanding what they were seeing. Because this wasn't normal flooding. This was something else. That constant, overwhelming roar of water. It didn't stop. It echoed through buildings, through streets, through people's minds. Sirens tried to cut through the chaos. Emergency warnings blared. But the flood didn't listen. It surged forward, unstoppable. Eyewitnesses described scenes that felt unreal. Cars piling into each other, water climbing, over rooftops, people trapped on balconies calling for help as the streets below vanished. In some areas, the current was so strong it knocked people off their feet instantly. No time to react. No second chance. Just one step. And the water took over. Electricity flickered, then failed. And with it, the city was plunged into a different kind of darkness. Not just the absence of light, but the presence of something far more terrifying, uncertainty. How high would the water rise? How long would this last? Who would make it out? Authorities scramble to respond, issuing urgent warnings. Stay indoors. Avoid roads. Do not attempt to drive through flooded areas. But for many, those warnings came too late. Because when water moves with that kind of force, it doesn't negotiate, it doesn't slow down, it doesn't care.
Approximately 55 to 57 individuals were rescued, including Nepalese, Chinese nationals, and Indian traders. The Nepalese join the effort with determination. We'll play again. This field represents our Army, Armed Police Force, and local disaster response
Rescue teams pushed through impossible conditions, navigating submerged streets, searching for those trapped in buildings, vehicles, or worse, swept away entirely. Every minute mattered. Every second counted. And yet, the flood kept rising. The psychological impact was just as devastating as the physical destruction. People watched their world disappear in real time. Memories, homes, livelihoods, everything consumed by a relentless tide. And still, the rain fell. Hours passed, but the feeling of control never returned. Because once a city crosses that threshold, once water takes over, there is no immediate way back. This wasn't just infrastructure failure. This was vulnerability exposed. A reminder that even the strongest cities can be brought to their knees in a matter of hours. And when the water finally begins to recede, what it leaves behind is not relief. It's silence, a heavy, unsettling silence. Mud-covered streets, destroyed vehicles, homes left open, broken, abandoned, and people trying to process what just happened. Because how do you explain something like this? How do you make sense of a day that started normally and ended in disaster? This is the reality of extreme weather in a changing world. Events that once seemed rare now arrive faster, stronger, more unpredictable. And cities like Makhachkala are left to face the consequences. But beyond the destruction, beyond the shocking images and viral footage, there is something deeper. A question: are we ready for what comes next? Because if one storm can do this, if one day of rain can turn a city into a disaster zone, then what happens when the next one arrives? And the next? This wasn't just a flood. This was a warning. A glimpse into how quickly everything can change. How fragile control really is. And how, in the face of nature's full force, even entire cities can be reduced to silence. So watch closely, because what happened here could happen anywhere, anytime. And next time, maybe even less time to escape.
Makhachkala